Do you know the actual role and responsibilities of the West Bloomfield Township Clerk? I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm too privy of it myself, but what I do know is they handle public information and services, vital records management, licenses and permits, record keeping, and election administration. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are sliding into election season very, very soon. It's better to be proactive than reactive. So join us here on the Splash Live to give us all of that information that we need. Our West Bloomfield Township Clerk, Debbie Binder, joins the Splash Live. Thank you so much for your time, Debbie.
Good morning, Kevin. Nice to see you this morning.
Absolutely. Nice to see you too. We appreciate it. So I want to kind of take my time real quick, if you don't mind. I want to get into this because I want to kind of speak from my perspective of my generation a little bit too, but we also want to continue to educate people in all generations. So essentially, election season coming up, I want to talk about the absentee voter ballots or how that process works in general. I'm looking at something that says the permanent absentee ballot list versus the absentee voter application list. First and foremost, can you talk about the difference between these two?
Okay, so we have had for many years, the permanent absent voter application list, which meant that our voters received an application for every election that if they had signed up to be on that list, they received an application for every election they were eligible to vote in. And if they returned it, we sent them a ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning after 2022, voters were able to sign up to be on the permanent absentee ballot list, which means they will receive a ballot for every election they're eligible to vote in. So that's a significant change. They don't have to fill out an application. That ballot will show up in the mail if they've requested to be on that list. Over the next, we don't know how long of a period of time, they will be phasing out that application list as more people do engage on that permanent ballot list. Right now, to give you an idea, we have about 13,000 voters on the permanent ballot list and almost an equal number on the permanent application list. But as we have more and more using that permanent ballot list, you're going to see that application list go away. One thing, though, that has changed also is voters are now able to vote that absentee ballot at their precinct on election day or at the early voting center, which is also new, that begins 9 days, essentially 9 days before an election. It actually begins the Saturday, the weekend prior, 2 weeks prior to the election, and continues through the Sunday before the election. So they have 9 days of early voting. They can either come vote early in the early voting center, or they may actually bring that absentee ballot that they've received and vote it in the the early voting center, or bring it to their precinct on election day. And another change, and I guess a reason that is a nice feature,
Right.
is that if they make a mistake on their absentee ballot, they're able to, when they would feed it through the tabulator, it will actually catch the mistake and allow them to spoil that ballot and receive a new one. This August election is a good example. This is a primary election where people have to stay in one lane or down one side of the ballot along one party. People will tend to cross over into the other lane for a candidate, which would spoil their partisan section. However, if they actually vote that ballot in an early voting center or at a precinct, it will let them know that they voted over, that they've crossed lanes, and they'll get to vote a new ballot. Whereas if they turn it in as an absentee ballot, it would actually just have the partisan section not count.
Wow. Mouthful, but thank you for the information, Debbie. A lot to consume, but essentially I want to kind of recap that if I'm understanding this correct. So the permanent absentee ballot list is a list you can join, and once you join it, essentially you don't have to fill out an application. They're going to send you the absentee ballots automatically every election season. But the absentee voter application list is something that you would basically apply for or join so that you can get an application to get the absentee ballot. Is that correct?
You have it correct, but
Oh,
we
wow.
do know that it was perfect. You really actually caught on beautifully.
Yeah.
But what we don't know is when they're going to phase out that application list. They don't have a timeline for that yet. So people will have to start watching when the election is as they phase out that application list, because that application kind of served as notice, and they won't get that application now unless they're on the permanent ballot list where they receive the ballot.
Wow. So if they did want to join the permanent absentee ballot list after that absentee voter application list is phased out? How would they do that? Is there any opportunity to they go directly to West Bloomfield Township?
They do have to do it in writing, so on the application that everyone is getting that's currently on that permanent application list,
Okay.
there's a box to check to receive permanent a ballot in the future. If they check that box, then they'll be moved over to the permanent ballot list. If they're not on that list already and they do wish to be on, they just need to request in my office through in writing, or actually make it even easier. They can go online and request to be on the permanent ballot list, and there they will use the
Boom.
signature for their driver's license.
There you go. Yep. Okay, that's the information that I wanted
And
right
that's,
there.
that's your generation's information we need to make sure they have.
That is true. I gotta admit, yes, that is true. That is true. Join us here on the Splash Live, giving us all the information that we need right here in our community. West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder, just catching us up on early voting, absentee ballots, permanent absentee ballot lists, and things of that nature. Different changes going on. One thing I do want to pick your brain about. This is a little bit off the record, I guess you could say. I know that you manage the different licensing and permits here in the area. With the summertime coming and things of that nature, people who are interested in maybe hosting a block party or doing something where they would require a permit or some of that nature. Can you just explain that process, please?
Okay, there is a process if somebody is looking to receive what's called an outdoor gathering permit. But an outdoor gathering permit is if they know that they're going to have over 300 people within a 24-hour period.
Oh,
So if someone's having a small block party, there is likely not a need to get an outdoor gathering permit.
hmm.
And the other ones that would sometimes go along with that is a road closure permit. In a township, our roads are all owned by Oakland County. So in order to close any kind of a road, it has to go through Oakland County. And part of their application process requires a permit from the township board, where the township board says, we're okay with this, or we aren't. And then the county makes their decision based on what the board also will state. But we don't have a lot of those. An example would be like our art fair, which is definitely a gathering with well over 300 people. They receive both an outdoor gathering permit and a road closure permit. And there's a whole process for that. When
Right.
someone applies for those permits, we have to send that out to every department to do an inspection, receive it back in order to take it to the township board for approval. So anybody who is considering a large event, I think you need to allow at least 60 days, and 90 days is probably better.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
I
it's not
understand.
something you can throw together last minute at all. It won't, it
I
doesn't
was
work.
just about to say that. Yeah, so that's probably larger scale type things, but
Mhm.
still good information to know. Get out there, cause trust me, I love a good block party in my community. Going out to meet people that you literally live with right there outside, and it's just a great time. So I completely understand that. You also spent time as an educator. So I want to
Yes,
kind of, with that being said, we are in the middle of graduation season and things of that nature. Let's just talk about that. This time of the year, as the year starts to wrap up and wind down, can we just speak about the mindset or just how it is as an educator, from an educator's perspective, at this time of the year, from your perspective?
well, it's an exciting time, and I can actually speak right now as a former educator and a parent of an 11th grader who is starting to consider his future, even though we're a year early. And I have an 11th grader that thinks he has to have the next 50 years figured out of his life. So, but it's an exciting time for these kids because, you have a lot of kids who've come through COVID and things have been very different for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm.
And, school has been either online or their social, I think that there's some social interaction that's missing right now, that it's a little bit tougher to see this cohesive, collaborative effort toward graduation.
Right.
Yet, kids are resilient, and I think that we're all learning how resilient they are. And they are looking ahead to bright futures, and they are exploring options that perhaps we didn't in the past. Some are options we didn't have, and some are options that perhaps that we didn't consider. And I think that they're looking at a lot more hands-on opportunities and a lot broader opportunities. My son's coming out of robotics and different hands-on experiences and looking at how he can be an engineer and do something hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're encouraging a generation to to go forward and to the best fit for them. And we're kind of focusing on finding your match, your best path,
Yep.
and looking forward to a future. I think that, graduation is a good reminder that we need to focus on these kids, celebrate them, but get them ready to go off on that next step and take that, go on their next path.
100%. No, 100%. You hit the nail on the head, And I love that you said one of your sons in robotics, thinking about engineering. That was one of the things I wish I would have went into, but great time for that. I got a lot of friends who are engineers. And and then the other son you said, who the 11th grader, feels like he has to plan the next 50. I was there too. I remember in middle school, I felt like, okay, after middle school it's high school. Then after that, I'm grown. I got to find a wife, so I might as well pick a wife now. And I don't know why I was thinking about this at an early age, but it takes the parents, the teachers, the community, kind of bring that perspective, ground the students, let them know, yeah, we're graduating, you're going to that next level. These are some different things that you can think about, consider, et cetera, et cetera. So great work that you're doing as a parent, and that you're doing for the community also, Debbie. One of the last things before we leave, we just had Michigan Week, the Michigan Week Awards, honoring local volunteers and things of that nature right here in the community. You were also part of that. Can you just talk about the experience of the Michigan Week Awards breakfast event in general, and just talk about the work of our local volunteers right here in the community and how valuable it is?
Well, I love our Michigan Week breakfast, and I've been on the committee since the day I became involved in local government, which is a choice. It's not required in my position. It's a choice, but the choice was made because I think the mission is so important. We are the community we are because of the volunteers that get involved and give their time, whether it's for the school district, our community organizations, our parks, our library, all of the different organizations that come together, including 7 school districts, to make this a community. So we're not little, and I think people often forget we're still a community of 67,000 residents. So how do you take 67,000 residents and make them feel like you have a smaller community? You get people involved. And how do you get people involved? You have different groups and organizations that either grab volunteers, or sometimes you have to voluntold a little bit. But once you get people involved, you then recognize them for that commitment and that effort that they give to their community. And those Michigan Week Awards are an important time to say thank you and to recognize people that have gone above and beyond to make West Bloomfield, for a large community, feel a lot more like a small community. So I would encourage anyone looking for a meaningful organization to get involved in. It's a great one. The Michigan Week Committee, that breakfast it's once a year, but it's an all year preparation. And the leaders of the group, Carol Hack, Pam Zajac, and Deb Macon, the day that Michigan Week breakfast is over, they are hard at work on next year's Michigan Week breakfast.
Wow.
It's an all hands on deck effort to meet those deadlines.
That's good. That's good. And I couldn't have said it better. Like, honoring the people that's taking time and coming out here and helping the community, whether they volunteer or they've been voluntold to get out there. I love that one, voluntold. We've been there before. I've been there before. But at the end of the day, you feel good because, like I said, you're doing something positive. More than likely, you're making an impact on the community that you can always look back on and say that you contributed to. So I completely get it. And I know it means a lot coming from our West Bloomfield Township Clerk. Thank you again so much for your time. Actually, before we go, any additional words, messages for our residents here in the greater West Bloomfield community about operations, programs, services coming up?
I would say one thing to add back to elections, because it is a big year for elections.
Please.
If there's anything you have a question about, call your clerk's office. You can also get a lot of information at michigan.gov/vote. So either of those locations are great places to get accurate information. Don't rely on news you get on TikTok. Don't rely on news you get on Instagram or Facebook. Call your clerk's office, check out michigan.gov/vote. And just, engage. This is the time. Have your voice heard. Get out and vote this year. You've got the August primary. You've got the November general election. This is your moment. Get out there and vote. So don't get fooled by misinformation. Get your accurate information from your clerk or the Secretary of State's website, please. Any questions? Call. If you get a piece of mail, even if it looks legit, and in many cases it is, It's just trying to get out the vote or get people registered, but it may be from a third-party organization. So if you get three different, forms, call the clerk's office. We only send out one. So, don't be fooled. But again, most of them are not of ill intent. They're just trying to get out the vote or get you registered. But we do get people turning them in duplicate, quadruplicate, and it's a lot of work. So, try to use the clerk's office form or call for clarification. Example, if you get a voter report card, that is a third-party organization sending out a voter report card, not your local clerk's office.
See, thank you for making that difference. This is why we let you get the last word and get those thoughts off, because I wouldn't have thought of that. Thank you so much again. Once again, you can call the clerk's office directly, 248-451-4848. Call them directly. Please don't go to TikTok for your information. This is not the time for that. Thank you again, West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder, for joining us on the Splash Live. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. You have a great day.